Hey Pi pioneers, I get it. Right now you might be staring at your Pi wallet and wondering if you've been fiddling with pixels for the past few years. The hype has quieted. YouTube views on Pi videos have dropped. It feels like everyone moved on. But before you write Pi off, hear me out. While most of the world was busy guessing when Pi would pump or which exchange would list it next, Pi has been doing something else entirely, quietly building connections and a user base that could matter long-term. Over the last month I dug into things most casual holders probably haven't seen. I stayed up late reading forum threads, watching community meetups, and tracing partnership mentions. Some of what I found kept me awake because it suggested Pi might be aiming for something more ambitious than a speculative listing. Instead of aiming to crash the existing financial system, Pi appears to be trying to work with it, and that changes the whole playbook. Think about that for a second. While Bitcoin maximalists waved banners and declared independence from banks, Pi seems to be taking the opposite tack, building bridges to traditional institutions. That's huge if true. When legacy banks that normally keep crypto at arm's length start showing interest, it implies Pi is being considered as something more than a hobby token. That doesn't guarantee success, but it does mean the project's strategy is one of integration rather than confrontation. Now let's talk about the idea making rounds in the community, the global consensus value, the notion that one Pi could be pegged symbolically to 3.14159, and that some pioneers have suggested a target of $314,159 per Pi. Yes, that number sounds bonkers at first. I'll be honest, when I first saw it I laughed. But then I walked through the math and the psychology behind symbolic pricing. The digits of Pi are part of the community's identity, so the number itself carries meaning beyond the decimal points. Whether that translates into real economic value is another question entirely. Here's the pragmatic way to look at the GCV idea: it's less about instant cashing out and more about attempting to create an internal economy. If large portions of the Pi user base agree on a reference value and start trading goods and services around it, you could see interesting microeconomies arise. That's not the same as hitting a market cap overnight, it's more like running a social experiment at a planetary scale. If even a small percentage of users adopt that mindset, you'll see creative, localized experiments in pricing and exchange. Will it work? Maybe. Could it flop spectacularly? Absolutely. Either outcome will teach us a lot. What gives me more faith than ambitious numbers is the raw user adoption Pi has managed to gather before a full launch. Getting tens of millions of registered users without a fully operational mainnet is not trivial, it's the result of a deliberate onboarding strategy and a viral narrative that stuck. Historical analogs like Bitcoin took years to reach these levels of attention. Pi accelerated user activation the social way, by making participation easy and inclusive. I've seen early-stage adoption in places where digital cash can actually change lives: small merchants accepting Pi for snacks or phone credit, community services exchanged for Pi tokens, and local groups experimenting with Pi-based marketplaces. It's patchy and local, but unlike press releases, real transactions are the slow, quiet indicator of something that could scale. Let's be blunt about the risks. This project could revolutionize parts of global finance and reward early adopters, or it could fizzle and leave people feeling foolish. Many crypto projects promise moonshots and produce vapor. Pi, to its credit, hasn't asked for money, mostly time and attention, but that doesn't make it risk-free. If you're holding Pi, don't mortgage your future on it. Keep mining because it costs nothing, stay curious about the tech, but manage your expectations. The most resilient crypto strategies I know are diversified, people who stay informed, hedge their bets, and prepare for multiple outcomes. There's also a timing element that's hard to ignore. Central banks around the world are experimenting with digital currencies, and regulators are scrambling to understand how decentralized projects fit into legal frameworks. Pi's approach, growing a user base while seeking pragmatic ties to existing financial players, places it in an interesting middle ground. It's not an outright rival to banks, it's trying to be useful alongside them. Again, that might be genius, or it might backfire spectacularly if partners change their minds or regulations tighten unexpectedly. So what should you do if you're invested emotionally or practically in Pi? First, keep mining. It costs you nothing and it keeps you plugged into the network. Second, get hands-on with small experiments, buy a cheap item from a merchant who accepts Pi, or try trading services in local community groups. Real usage beats speculation when it comes to building meaningful value. Third, don't bet the farm. Treat your Pi holdings like a long-shot experiment rather than a financial guarantee. And finally, stay informed, follow multiple community channels, read development updates, and watch how both grassroots adoption and institutional interest evolve. I'll be honest, I'm cautiously optimistic. The combination of mass user acquisition, early merchant experiments, and reported conversations with established financial institutions creates a scenario that other projects envy. But it's far from a sure thing. Some parts of the plan rely on social consensus and community action, which can be unpredictable. Regulatory headwinds can change the playing field overnight. And any promise of a skyscraper-sized valuation based on symbolism alone should be met with skepticism. At the end of the day, what we're part of isn't just a token distribution. It's a large-scale social experiment in how people coordinate around a shared idea of value. Whether Pi becomes a practical currency, a niche payments layer, or simply a fascinating lesson in collective belief, the experiment itself is worth watching. If you got any value from this take, hit like and jump into the comments. I read everything and I want to hear your experiences, doubts, and wild predictions. Subscribe if you want honest, no-hype breakdowns as developments unfold. And if you want raw, unfiltered updates and community chatter, check my Telegram and Facebook pages, links are in the description. Stay cautious, stay curious, and keep mining. Whatever happens with Pi, we're witnessing a collective attempt to invent new financial behavior, and that alone is an opportunity to learn. See you in the next video where I'll keep sharing what I find, warts and all.